lovely to see you after a long time.
Yes, absolutely.
And thank you so much for coming on this event.
Absolutely delighted, Rajiv. It's a honor and privilege to talk to you on something which I really am passionate about.
Lovely, lovely. So let me quickly introduce you to the audience. So hi everyone, welcome to this book series event called Leaders and Libraries from the Leadership Elements. It's a very unique event that we are talking about where we are going to have 25 plus illustrious leaders like Ashish himself who are maverick readers. And this event is all about helping budding leaders to go back to that one fundamental habit of picking up the book and reading the book. We're going to have leaders talk about one inspiring book that has really helped them in their own journey of leadership. Yeah, Ashish. And
Absolutely.
how has it played in their own lives, which could be a great learning for all the budding leaders who are going to listen to this when it gets populated on LinkedIn and other social media. So, Ashish, I'm so happy and excited to have you because you are our first guest of this big series. So, thank you so much. It's going to be great listening to you.
It's amazing, Rajiv. Thanks for having me here.
Lovely. So, Ashish is somebody who calls himself as a crusader against negativity and a doctorate in happiness. He is somebody who looks at working on reducing suffering and increasing happiness in people whoever he touches, right, Ashish? And
Absolutely.
he's the founder of a company called Happiness Plus Consulting. That's a lovely logo, Ashish. There, I did mention about that on LinkedIn, and it's a technology-enabled happiness habit formation. Can you believe that? That's an interesting word. Neil Ayar in his book Hook talks about habit formation, and I never thought that somebody is going to work on happiness as a habit formation. Ashi, that's a great space that you're working in. Absolutely unique, and I'm very very happy to have you. So tell me quickly a little bit about this. How did this happen, and why happiness?
Yeah, so I've spent around 18 years in the area of engagement and culture
Uh-huh.
and advised across the globe in terms of how they should engage and get maximum out of their people. But you know what, Rajiv, when I ask this question to people that do you want to work for a company which engages you or do you want to work for a company which makes you happy? I think majority of people said, I want to work in a company which makes me happy. And then I asked them that how much money you let go if you have
Uh-huh.
to work in a which makes you happy vis-a-vis a company which gives you money, but makes your life stressed. And you won't believe people, 50% plus people said more than 25% of our CTC will let go. Because if you give me an opportunity to work with a company, it allows me to be happier. So somewhere this motion is there that there is so much of suffering,
Right.
negativity comes to you automatically. You don't need an invitation for negativity, but positivity takes time. And
Right.
for happiness is a verb; it's not an adjective. And like
Correct.
verb, if you want to make it a habit, then you have to work on it. So I think that's the reason why we thought, if not me, then who? So we got started with this.
So lovely. That's a very, very interesting thought process. Ashish also works as a founder for a company called C Talks, where he brings in people who are absolutely unassuming. They would just walk off as passerbys and you would not even notice them, isn't it, Ashish? And they are such successful people who have done something victorious, something very inspiring for people, and he gives a platform for them to make themselves visible. And I'm sure many of you would have seen his long posts about multiple stories that comes on LinkedIn. In fact, that was the biggest hook, and I said I definitely need to have Ashish on this event as my guest. So lovely, Ashish, having you. All right.
Thank you.
So many, many books. I know you are a maverick reader. Books have inspired you. We're going to ask you one question. Book and Ashish. How do you see these two words go together?
Best friends. I think when you talk about books, these are the friends which does not expect anything from you, always show you right path, and you can always go back to them whenever you want to. So I think I feel that they are your best friends, and
Yeah.
it's thanks to my elder brother who introduced me to this world which I did not know existed,
Mhm.
and I was never wanted to read. And my brother was very insistent that I should read.
Mhm.
And I'm something when I was 10 or 11 year old. Okay, and he was very passionate that I should pick books, but I never listened to him until one day he asked me that, "What do you want to do? What is something which you really are passionate about?" So I said, "I love playing cricket." He said, "Okay, have you read any biography of any cricketer?" So I said, "Oh, cricketers also have biographies and autobiographies." He said, "Yes." And he gifted me a book, which was on Vivian Richards, and he said, "Read this. This will be interesting." So I read that book, and I found it very interesting. Then I said, "Okay, where is the second book?" So third book, fourth book.
And
So
the journey started.
the journey started. So I thank my elder brother for doing this great thing to me, and
Lovely,
really,
lovely, lovely. In fact, I thank my father for getting me into books, because when I was in my seventh standard, he would ask me to read the center page of the Hindu newspaper. N. Ram's articles would be really difficult with heavy English, and evening I would have to give him three words in English that I've picked up and form a sentence to show him that I've actually learned the meaning of those words. So he introduced me to all that tinkles and panchatantras, and it's been a great journey. Yeah.
right.
So tell me, Ashish, how has your evolution as a reader contributed to your evolution as a leader?
I think it's very interrelated, Rajiv, if I can say. So when even when I was in pre-MBA, and
Mm,
I used to read quite a lot of book on what's happening in corporate world.
mm,
It's actually excited me a lot. Stories of how people build companies and how what exactly goes behind building an organization. These are the things
mm,
that really interested me. And for me, it was like a real life example of what was written there and what's happening in organization. So
mhm.
I used to go back and say, okay, what are some of the principles I read about, and whether this is being applicable or not. And I'm not talking about what they teach you at MBA schools. I'm talking about books which you pick up out of your interest and try to
Correct.
understand what's happening. So over the years, I think, as I mentioned, books have really been a great friend for me. In times of doubt, in times of uncertainty, I always go back to the basic text
Lovely.
and what's happening there. And it's been a great privilege to read some brilliant minds. If there were no book, I don't know how I would have gone into the.
How
And
interesting.
this
How
is this
interesting.
is this is really and as we grew, the type and tastes of the book has also changed, and
Absolutely.
more abstract topics and something which otherwise people will not like. I think
Mm-hmm.
start getting into those elements. So over the years, I've realized that it has expanded my thought process. Earlier, it was only business. Then you realize that even business is impacted by so many factors. So you
Correct.
have perspective, geographical perspective, cultural perspective, anthropological perspective, biological perspective, and to everything. And I think that's
Yeah,
what is now. So
I
you can
agree.
actually relate to everything.
I agree. I agree. And I had some boundaries of certain segment of books that I would pick up. But I think
Right.
now over time I've realized that जो भी मिलता है पकड़ के पढ़ लो. You never know कि ज्ञान कहाँ से आ रहा है बटोर लो. So make a lot of
Right.
sense. All right. So why start with why is one of the most inspiring books?
I think this book, and if people have not read, so first of all, I would recommend them to read this book, because this book puts everything in perspective.
Mhm.
Right, a lot of us keep doing things, uh, keep attaining different things which we consider as materialistic success.
Mm.
Deep down, we most of us aren't very happy. We feel very hollow. Uh,
Mm.
and a lot of us, even if so-called success is there, we
Mm.
realize that something is missing in life. And
Mm.
this book answers what you might be missing.
Mm.
If you don't have purpose in life, if you don't
Mm.
question to yourself every day that why do you exist, and what exactly you are going to leave behind, and
Mm.
why you do what you do,
Mm.
I think it's an incomplete life. And Simon Sinek has been a great favorite of mine since the
Mm.
time the motorcycles became were something which became popular.
Correct.
Uh,
Correct.
and you won't believe that once I read the book, I said I kept writing to Simon saying that you have to give me an interview, and I want to talk to you. And thankfully, he gave me an interview. And
Wow.
spoke for 45 minutes, and I could sense that this book is not a book; it's an expression. It's a philosophy.
Yeah.
It's a, I will say sometimes I also feel it's like a religious book where
Mm-hmm.
you get the tenets of how you should live life, be it personal life or professional life.
Mm. Mm.
And the best part is, Rajiv, the
Mm.
that he talks about
Mm.
are equally implementable by you in your personal life,
Yeah.
and running an organization, it can be very very contemporary in terms of the way these lessons can be applicable there.
Correct.
If you are running an NGO, if you are running a political party, if you are running any institution,
Yeah.
uh, the concepts from this book is like
Mm.
universal truth, which will stand true wherever you go. So I think that's why I love this book.
Fantastic. I love the book like you, and I think I can relate it to anything that he speaks in this particular book. One powerful sentence that he said, there are leaders and there are those who lead. I never got these two phrases together and saw it the way he has seen it. How do you
Yeah.
see it, Ashish?
So I think sometime back you asked me how do I relate to what I read and in the corporate world which I go. There is a famous story of a CEO who
Mm.
was invited to speak in a particular conference, and in 2019 he was called, and 2021 also he was called. The
Mm.
only difference was that in 2019 he was the CEO of one of the leading pharmaceutical company, and
Mm-hmm.
22 sorry, 2020, I'm just talking about 2 years gap. So
Mm.
he was somebody who has already retired from the company, and the way he was treated was completely different. And then he went to the podium and said, today I understood the difference of being a leader and leadership by position, because last time when I came, I got all the treatment which you will expect to be given to a CEO.
Mm.
That means that all the privileges which I was getting was not for me; it was for
Mm.
which I was holding. And
Right.
today, when I come to speak, it's the way I'm being treated is who am I, right?
Mm.
So I think that's the difference. Is it the power you are deriving is from your position, or is it something which is you as an individual? Because you inspire people, people come to you because they want to be led by you, not
Right.
because they have to be led by you because of power or position. So I think that's the difference. And in life, you will see that there are some people, even if they are not related to you from an hierarchical perspective or professional,
Mm.
you will always go to them and say, can you show me the way? I think that's the difference, the way I look at it, Rajiv.
Fantastic, fantastic. I mean, it makes a lot of sense here because the second time when he came, it was all about the person and not
Yeah,
about the kursi or the chair of the person, right? So I think
right.
that's an interesting perspective. I think that's exactly what all of us as leaders we want to get right when we stand and when people appreciate us. They should appreciate us for the individual that you are and not the designations or
Yeah.
the qualifications that we have after our name, right? Interesting perspective. I was also thinking on this particular thought process of Simon. He says fit by design and fit by default. I thought I'll relate this to leadership. A leader who's fit by design, or a leader by design, and a leader by default. What are
Yeah.
you, and why do you call yourself that?
See, I personally, as a leader, I've always been someone who believed that business is all about people.
Mm.
Whatever business you are in, for me, the definition of business is people. So
Mm.
business is equal to people. So if somebody knows how to take care of your people, I think business will run automatically. That is,
Mm.
the second part is if you start something
Mm.
from the beginning with an outcome in your mind, then obviously the steps you take, the type of team you get in, the type
Mm.
of culture you build, and the type of work environment is something which you don't have to fit in step by step. It
Mm.
automatically, and you don't have to hire a consultant and say, why don't you define, which we generally do. And then we also say that, okay, tell us what is our values. So you are
Right.
going to outside and asking people to tell you your value, which is quite quite fascinating, because you should know your value first, right?
Yeah.
But it happens. But then what you said, if it is by design, then everything falls in place. And if it is not something which you have not thought through in the beginning, then you have short-term end in mind, and obviously people don't get excited by it. So I think that's the way I look at it, Rajiv.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with that because, I don't, I wouldn't say I don't, but I partly subscribe to this old statement saying leaders are born. I very strongly believe that leaders are made. And I think there are multiple avenues and opportunities for you to kind of work yourself up and become a far better leader, isn't it? And having come from a total quality management space, I've worked with automobile industry. I think Japanese are known for fitting anything by design. It doesn't happen by default for them at all. So perfection, execution, excellence are words that they eat, breathe, and live through the day, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Superb, superb, lovely, lovely. So now that you're a leader by design and not a leader by default, the design was having worked with Aon Hewitt, having worked with Gallup, having worked with Wilstover Watson kind of organization, with a global consulting organization, and you have designed organizational excellence models for many, many companies. And you also had a chat with a good friend of mine recently to help her out. What is interesting for me is something that, again, Simon talks about something called innovative leaders, but it talks about leaders with a novelty. What is your take on these two?
Yeah, it's a deep topic, Rajiv, and I think it requires a lot of deliberation. It's a mindset. So when you talk about innovation, for me, innovation is something which changes the way you look at something. So it changes your mindset, it changes your industry, it changes everything. For me, coming of Uber and Ola is like innovation, because nobody thought that you should not be owning a car, you should not hire a driver, you should not be worried about the maintenance, but you can drive to your office in whatever car you want, and just a click of button. It was, nobody imagined that. For me, this is innovation. But a lot of companies mistake innovation by putting some features. So I have the latest mobile phone which has got the camera which has got 32 megapixel. It gives you, so this is the thinnest one. These are something which can be copied very easily, because ultimately it's a novelty, right? Yeah, saying that it does not gives you business advantage, it definitely gives you, but it can be copied very easily by your competitor.
Right.
And you will lose your leadership position. And exactly this is what happens when you talk about individuals and organizations. Even in individuals, I can learn something from you. Say, for example, Rajiv, and I say, okay, tomorrow I'll go and start implementing it. People find out, right? Because it's original thought. You are not so authentic. You are trying to impress people. That if I, for example, if I say my mission is to add happiness to this world. This is why I start my company. This is why I left my well-paid job and said, okay, no, I have to do something about it. So obviously, the way I will look at my business, what are the things I should do that it makes a difference in the way people look at happiness and the way they start consuming positivity in a way in which they have never thought. So I think where my innovation will come. Otherwise, if I just do what others are doing, it will be enhancement of features, unique selling propositions will be there, but it will not fit in the ideology of what I say innovative practice. So that's the difference according to me.
Absolutely. Novelty is all about that one small upgradation, isn't it? And I think some organizations like so talk about Tata, you talk about Southwest Airlines, you talk about Apple. I've recently moved from Android to Apple after many, many years. They came up with the special edition 2020, and I just couldn't resist the temptation to go for that. I think it's all about innovation, right? And these organizations stand for years, and they stand tall because of the leaders who have always been innovating, as you rightly said, and not just about creating one small feature that stayed for a couple of years and then vanished.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very interesting. So, golden circle, the concept or the nucleus of this book. Why do you see it so powerful, and how has it played in your life?
So, it is first of all, this is something which is quite easy to understand, and the second, it's quite easy for you to see. So when Simon says that when you don't have your why clear, you will always keep talking about your what, right? So you ask anybody, what do you do? And then the typical answer will come, I am vice president of sales in XYZ company, right? That I know, right? Your designation shows in your LinkedIn. Or you ask a student in an interview, so tell me about yourself. And the person will keep rattling out that, I'm from this college, I am from that college, I have done,
Right.
right? But when you are clear of this concept, the way you will explain yourself will have
Mm.
something which is larger than you. So if you
Right.
ask me, Ashish, what you do, so I will say, Rajiv, I'm in business of making people happier, right? And I have a technology which helps me do this. And by the way, I also run a company which helps organizations, individuals, and institutions, right? Now, when I say like this, then I don't have to worry about what designation I am having or
Right.
what I am playing. I can
Mm.
explain this pretty well.
Mm.
But unfortunately, a lot of companies and a lot of individuals don't have this clarity of why do they exist and what exactly is the reason for their existence.
Mm.
And that's why most of the time they explain their what and how. And Simon says it beautifully. People don't buy your what, people always buy your why. And
Yeah.
if your why is clear, I will give you an example, Rajiv. This
Yeah.
example, uh, very, very, and I have written about her in one of my posts. She is somebody who have seen a lot of problems in life, and very from a very poor background. Until on 32 years of age, she got cancer, and she while coming back from hospital to
Mm.
one day, she saw some few kids knocking her on the taxi which she was sitting, and she came out and she said, what do you want? They said, I want food, we are very hungry. And she felt very bad, and she took them to a restaurant. The
Mm.
restaurant, you cannot bring them in
Mm.
because it's not possible. And then she said, I got my one of life. Okay, whatever day I am going to live,
Mm.
I will, restaurant or no restaurant, these kids will get the best food which they can ever have.
Wow.
And she started her own tiffin services and going to slums, and from there the journey started. And you will not believe, Rajiv, in last 3 years, she has fed more than 1 million kids. And in this lockdown, she ran a campaign on online campaign, and collected 1 crore 25 lakh rupees to
Wow.
feed 50,000 families for last 4 months,
What a purpose of life, huh?
right?
One
So
incident. One incident.
one incident, and that's why I say that when you get your why in place, invariably I have seen the how and whereabouts of this starts settling in.
Mm.
She never have seen 1 crore 25 lakh rupees in her life. Okay, she comes
Mm.
from a very, very poor background.
Correct.
Now, but when the why was there
Uh,
and she was passionate, not only 1 crore 25 lakhs, but then she got a book written on her. She goes and, many people come to hear her that how exactly, and she also got rid of her cancer. It's gone,
wow.
right?
Look at that. Look
Now,
at that. Now, everybody would be interested to just pour help in form of money or in form of
yeah,
kind, because she is very clearly communicating that why, and people are understanding and appreciating that why, right? In fact, Simon, in fact, in the book itself says that, he was just an average person, but the day he found his why, I think
yeah.
he became the Simon Sinek. And we are not talking about his book today, isn't it?
And you know what, Rajiv, when you get
Mm.
high, you don't have to uh, wear a mask, right? The problem which I see in a lot of organizations, that people there wear masks because they will have one role at home and one
Mm.
at workplaces. Okay, and typically this has been drilled down that you have to have a professional outlook when you come to office. You cannot be so friendly with people. And I always believe that if you have got two personalities at two different places, that means at one of the places, you are playing a facade, and the facade takes a lot of effort for you to stay there. Instead of that, if I let you be authentic and remove your facade and use that energy to work on your why, everybody will be better placed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't do that.
Makes sense. Thank you for explaining that example of that lady who has done so much for those kids and those families, right? And collecting this money in this COVID is not a small task. How many of us have gone out and done something in this time? We have only taken care of ourselves, sitting inside the house so that we don't get
Yeah.
affected. And you have somebody who has gone out and done this, right? Very, very inspiring. And I think your organization of Sea Talk is
Yeah.
all about getting such people out and making them visible. I mean, amazing work, Ashish. I had goosebumps. I told you this when I read many of your stories. Very, very inspiring. Very, very powerful. So keep doing that. Keep doing that. It's a great platform.
I, I will tell you, Rajiv, why I do that. And today on your channel, I will explain. I had one of my uncle, he was a bank clerk in the place from where I come. It's called Dumka in Jharkhand. So this is a very small place. And he was a bank clerk throughout his life. He did not take any promotion because he didn't want to go out from the city. And 2014, 16 June, he called me in the morning. We spoke, and in the afternoon, I got to know that he's no more. He got a heart attack and he passed away. And I went to my native place to for his funeral, and
Mm.
there were around 700 people, and I was like shocked that why so many people are here, because he was an ordinary clerk. And then I spoke to a lot of people, and they said in his lifetime, he has helped all of us. So people whom you are seeing, somehow they have been touched by him. So either somebody's daughter not getting married, or books for somebody, or cycle, rickshaw for somebody. So he has done so much. And then, while the funeral was taking place, I have this thought in my mind that why is it all the criminals and all the people with bad examples are flashed everywhere in the media, but
Mm.
nobody talks about people like this,
Mm.
where who can inspire us? And I said, I will not expect anybody to do this for me. That's my why. I have to start doing. And you will not believe, Rajiv, when I decided that I will do it, things
Mm.
did fall into place. And
Yeah.
so much so that the IIT Bombay came out and said, why don't you host it with us? Our kids will get inspired.
Beautiful.
4 years, we have IIT Bombay as our partners. There were several publications which came up. Radio channels came and said, we will be your partner free of cost, don't worry. And things just kept going on. And that kept me inspired. And I'm sure till the time I'm alive, that will stay with me, whatever I do in life, because that's something which is my why.
Fantastic, fantastic. I think you are winning people. You are ensuring that people are touched. In fact, building this conversation very interesting forward is Simon talks about a very powerful statement. Says winning hearts and minds. Right? I have heard this. You have heard this. All of us have heard this. But the way he brought in a perspective, saying it is winning hearts and minds, and it is not the other way around.
Yeah.
And it suddenly clicked so strongly in my head. And I said, okay, it makes sense. And when I knew you are going to be the first guest, I said, happiness. Does it start from the mind? No, it starts from the heart. So it
Yeah.
kind of everything around the world seemed to be falling hearts and the mind. And tell me, as leaders, why is it so important to follow this statement of winning the hearts first and the mind? And how have you done that?
Uh, when you don't take leadership as position, I think leadership comes with responsibilities.
Yeah.
And always feel that at home you have got your parents who are the one who are the leaders of the house, and they show you the right way. It's not that they are always, goody goody with you. At appropriate time, they also take stern actions, right? But you always know that at the end of the day, my parents won't have something bad in their mind as far as I'm concerned. So
Right.
my welfare or my care will be there, at the core of what they do.
Hmm.
For me, leadership is like this, right?
Okay.
If the people who are in my team are somebody's kids, right? It's somebody's sisters, somebody's daughters, and very different as far as the humans are concerned. As I told you some time back, what makes me feel loved and respected might not be very different than what makes you also feel loved and respected.
Yeah, yeah.
I can tell you that if you can win somebody's heart, the person will go to any length to ensure that they do anything for you. Why do you think that there were people uh, somebody said in one of the discussions which were taking place with a Mughal Samrat, that you have got so much of power. I'm talking about Aurangzeb. So you have got so much of power. You have administratively, you have done everything right. Everybody, really feels that you have somebody who has really made a difference in how administration should be done. But how do you tell that Akbar was unpad, but then Navratna used to come and go in front of Akbar, right? And somebody asked Tansen that why do you go in front of Akbar, because he does not know ABC of your music. Don't you that you should not. Then Tansen said, I don't know whether Akbar knows about anything about music or not, but he knows me well.
Right.
And for me, that's the most important thing. Because when Akbar is around, my best comes out. It's not about music, it's not about my tal, it's not about soul. It's about his mere presence tells me that I should give my best, right? So I might not have to be the most skilled person to demonstrate that I can be your boss, right? The mere feeling that if my boss is around, I should give my best. That's what I mean by winning your heart. But in organizations, unfortunately, when the boss is around, I go in shell, and my best never comes out, because I always compete with my boss, and my boss is competing with me, telling me that you know what, I can do it better than you. You want to learn? Come with me, I will show you.
Right.
And where the growth does not take place. I'm not saying that you should not teach, but just that what should you do, which makes your people feel that अपने boss के लिए जान दे दूंगा. मुझे कुछ भी हो जाए, I work for it. I think that's what I mean by winning hearts, and then mind will follow. But we just end up doing ulta. So we just want to tell everything why you should work for me, and then let your heart bleed most of the time. So that's the problem.
I think a lovely example of bringing Akbar here, because I too have interest in history as a subject, and once upon a time I wanted to do BA history, MA history, but my father had a great pride in making me the first engineer of my family. so I can completely relate to what you're saying. Starting from Babur to Aurangzeb, the entire clan of Mughal Empire, right? There's only one person with whom we have this word called the Great Associated Akbar. Nobody else has. You have Alexander the Great, you have Akbar the Great. So it clearly talks about the fact that he won hearts, definitely, isn't it? Whether it was annexing so many other kingdoms, ensuring that the Mughal and the Hindu culture kind of mingles together, having temples inside, his space. All that was great work. End of the day, people loved him as the Jahapana that he was, right? So I think it's a great example. Aurangzeb, though, was the same, Mughal emperor, does not have great respect in the history as we all have read it, isn't it? It's primarily because, as you rightly said, it's all about winning hearts. So thank you so much. And I think the job that you're doing of Happy Plus Consulting is again about winning hearts and helping people to be happy and further go and make more hearts happier.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great word. So I have another thought I want to share with you. This powerful statement that I read in the book says, energy motivates, but charisma inspires. In my own space, I'm a leadership facilitator. When I stand in a classroom and deliver a session, I bring a lot of energy, and I thought it inspires people. Till I read the book, I realized that energy must have motivated the participants as leaders sitting in the classroom. But if they have got inspired, I think it's about charisma that the facilitator or somebody shows. So I could distinctly get the difference of these two words. How do you see these words, Ashish, and why is charisma so important to inspire as against just energy?
I think it goes back to your last question. When you talk about winning hearts, and when you talk about heart, it looks at things which I can connect with.
Mm.
uh, One of the best speaker for me are not those speakers who speak fluent English or
Mm-hmm.
the best of the words in their dictionary. I think for me, people who can communicate clearly their whys,
Mm.
and, they also demonstrate that they have taken actions around that why and has created impact. According to me, they are the best leaders. And
Mm.
I have one person, in C Talks first edition. I got a person who is a rickshaw driver,
Uh-huh.
and he said, and he in his rickshaw he has written, "My aim in life is to make you happy." And what he used to do is, so in his rickshaw, you have newspapers, he has nail cutters, he has got cold water, he has got 7 Up Coca Cola if you want to. He also has a TV and whatever he could do from his sense. But he said that anyway, Mumbai में तो सब परेशान रहते हैं. But जब आप मेरी रिक्शा में बैठो, when you sit in my rickshaw, you should be amused and you should be happy. And I find it very powerful. I called him. So he said, sir, मैं मेरे पास कपड़े नहीं है सर अच्छे. मैंने बोला आप रिक्शा वाली ड्रेस में आओ.
Mm.
आपको कुछ बदलने की जरूरत नहीं. आप जैसे
Mm.
हो, don't try to change.
Mm.
That's your beauty. And I will not believe, Rajiv, in NCPA, when we were doing, this is one of the most iconic place in South Bombay.
Yeah, yeah.
When he spoke, entire audience stood up and clapped,
Oh, lovely.
right?
And the audience must have
And
had leaders and senior vice presidents and CEOs and kind of people
everybody from
sitting there,
corporates,
isn't it?
everybody stood up. And today, right now, I'm speaking I'm getting goosebumps.
Uh,
What he spoke was authentic.
yeah.
He spoke was something which brought a charisma around him.
Mm.
He spoke was not from any prepared transcripts.
Mm.
He spoke from his heart. He said the line which he touched everybody with, that I don't know, I'm using Hindi, maybe we can translate it later. I will translate it for you also. He says, हम मंगल में जिंदगी ढूंढ रहे हैं, लेकिन हमारे जिंदगी में मंगल है कि नहीं, ये किसी को पता नहीं.
How lovely, how lovely.
Right? So we are trying to find happiness in Mars, but in our own life, we are not finding happiness.
सिर्फ अमंगल ही ढूंढ रहा है, बस मंगल ही ढूंढ
Amangal,
रहा है.
it's only Amangal. So for me, this is leadership, Rajiv.
Yeah, makes sense.
That if you can communicate, and all the C Talks speakers, according to me, are authentic leaders because they have charisma. They understood, they looked at things which I and you look at, but they did something about it. They knew that there is a solution to be brought, and I can't, worry on anybody else. I have to stand up and take the energy. I can be energetic, but from where I should bring that why? That's the problem with energy, because energy can come and go, but your why will not come and go. And I think that's where the difference in that leadership comes in.
I think lovely, beautifully linked to this golden circle concept of Simon Sinek. It makes tremendous sense what you're saying, Ashish. It's all about charisma. I think the charisma will automatically be visible
Yeah.
and flow on the listener if the why is very clear. In this auto guy, the why is absolutely clear.
Yeah.
And I'm also aware of a guy in Tamil Nadu whose name is Arun, if I'm not mistaken, who runs an auto and he has spoken on TED Talks, who has got battery chargers, laptops, magazines, everything,
Yeah.
and he gives free rides on Teachers' Day. He gives free rides on Women's Day, Mother's Day. He says,
Yeah.
I'm absolutely happy. And whatever he earns, there's next percentage that he has started investing in making the customer happy who comes and takes his ride.
Absolutely.
I think such great people, all about charismatic leadership, right? Thank you so much for bringing this book alive, Ashish. I think for me, talking to you made tremendous sense because I am passionate about the work that I do, and I see you as somebody who's absolutely passionate about the work that you do. So tell me, as a seasoned leader, and all the budding leaders have been listening to you, and once it goes, they'll get to know more. What is that one last word you would want to give to the budding leaders?
I think uh, if you really want to make a difference to yourself, I'm not talking about your organization or your people. If you really want to make a difference to yourself, then go and find your why if you have not done that, right?
Beautiful.
And second is, according to me, be authentic, because if you are authentic, you will get many more followers. And don't worry about the number of followers you have on LinkedIn or on social media, how many likes you have. If you have conviction around what you're doing, and
Mm.
if you are very sure about what you're doing is bigger than you and make
Mm.
a difference to the larger world, you will slowly see that a lot of people will come behind you and keep rooting for your success. And what will happen is that you don't have to explain that why somebody should hire you. There
Mm.
will be 50 people who will say, please hire him. We want to work with this person. So I think that's what I will say. And last thing I will say, Rajiv, for me, leadership is about ensuring that people who report to you move far beyond where you have reached. For me, the real success of a leader is to get his or her people ahead of him. And if you can do that, for me, that you have played a role of a leader, authentic leader, very well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that final note. I think it's very important for the current generation and the budding leaders who may be, probably because of speed of work, or probably because of pressure in the organization, they may be doing their what and hows very, very effectively, which gets captured in the appraisals, that all of us know of. It gets captured in the potential conversation that we all know of.
Right.
Yeah, transactional. But I think, as you rightly said, if that individual who is an employee in that organization for a
Yeah.
temporary period, right? I think the far bigger ask is knowing the why. And if the why is clear, he or she is going to be successful in any organization across the journey of their own leadership, isn't it? So I think thank you so much. That's a great input that you have given for the budding leaders, Ashish. So I have the last question. You came for this event, which has been brought out by the leadership elements as leaders and libraries to get people like you to talk about. A little thought about this concept and the work that leadership elements are doing with the corporate space.
So, this is not something which I have prepared and I'm going to tell you because I have prepared about it. But genuinely, I feel it's a brilliant thought, Rajiv. Uh, you know, anyway, as I said, books are the biggest trade you can have. And bringing these books alive through these conversations where, I can read a book from a different perspective and you can read the same book from different perspective. And we don't have to agree, right?
Yeah.
But what is important is that if my are being implemented in your way or not. So I think what you're doing is making books come alive for you. And when I will also look forward to other conversations and I will listen to them to just get a sneak view on what is the perspective the other leader has taken on the same book. And do I have something else to add or delete from here? And this is like a movement. This is thanks for igniting this entire thought process of reading book and bringing this culture back. And I can give you a secret that most of the successful leaders do read quite a lot. And if you want a secret sauce from from Bill Gates to anybody you can think about, I have not seen any leader who was not a well-read person.
Yeah.
So what you are doing, I think, is of its kind in India, and I don't know in world where something like this exists or not. So I am sure that in few months and years, this will become a movement, and maybe that's what your why is, and that's what you should continue with. So all the best from my side, Rajiv, and I'm sure with right intention, half the battle is won. And all the best for your future,
Thank you.
future
Thank you.
events.
Thank you so much, Ashish. I think I'm very happy that you brought out and reminded me of my why and my passion with books, which became a business model in the form of the leadership elements as an organization, and this event, which is an offshoot of that. It's all about how books can inspire people, how all individuals can find their own leader within themselves through books. If that is a very strong why that I'm looking at achieving through all the interventions and all the work that we do, I think that's exactly what all leaders also need to have as clarity in their own heads, right? So thank you so much, Ashish, for coming in. It's been lovely talking to you. I look forward to meet you in person in Mumbai when everything opens up. When you fly down to Bangalore, I would love to invite you home and have a chat. So thank you so much, and God bless you. God bless Happy Plus Consulting. Good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Lovely seeing you. Bye-bye. Take
Lovely.
care.
Bye.